It's a little anticlimactic for me to stand up here after that. Welcome to our Draft Day Luau, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls. We're glad you're all here. We want to get our program started right away. And my name is Steve Coltrin. Our firm, Coltrin Associates, in conjunction with the Polynesian Cultural Center, beautiful place in Hawaii, if you haven't been, and the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame have organized this event. At this time, it's my honor to introduce our guest host and MC for the day. He was born in Tonga. His parents ultimately moved to Hawaii, where they attended a church college, which would later be known as BYU Hawaii. And then they ended up in Arizona, where he played football for Mesa High School. He attended Brigham Young University, where he earned a degree in broadcast journalism, and he played football for the BYU Cougars. He was drafted in 1986 by the St. Louis Cardinals, making him the first Tongan ever to play in the NFL. And he ended up playing with the Philadelphia Eagles from 1992 to 1994. Also in 1994, he joined NBC 10, where in addition to his anchoring duties, he hosts a program called Wednesday's Child. He is married to the beautiful Keala Heater, who is from Kahuku, just a short distance from the Polynesian Cultural Center on the north shore of Oahu in the state of Hawaii. He's a member of the board of directors of the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame, and in 2015 he himself was inducted into the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame. Please join me in giving the warmest of welcomes to our MC for the day. He's in charge from here on out, my friend and yours, Vai Sekahima.
I don't know that I'm in charge, but I'm going to be emceeing, so maybe that means I'm in charge. Thank you, Steve, for the warm introduction, and very impressive the way you've rolled out all those vowels, Polynesian names. He wanted me to introduce Kenny Niumatalolo, though. He didn't want to even try that. It's great to be with you this afternoon. It's my time clock is off because I work early morning hours. I anchor news from 4:30 to 7 a.m. I don't even know who's up that early, but somebody was. Where's Ralph? Ralph, my man. Ralph saw me this morning, gave a plug about this event, and Ralph showed up because he heard me say, one of the other anchors said, is it something that's open to everybody? And I said, yeah, it's Polynesian. We invite everybody. So Ralph and is it Ellie? Ralph and Ellie showed up. I've got my focus on the two of you because you answered the call today on TV. All right, thank you. We have a number of dignitaries I want to introduce, but I want to start with, I'll introduce Alfred Grace in a moment, who's the president and the CEO of the Polynesian Cultural Center. We have this unique connection. Almost anybody that's Polynesian, Laia, the north shore of Hawaii, is sort of like Ellis Island for anybody of European descent. Most of your ancestors have probably made their way here through Ellis Island, through New York. Most Polynesians make their way to the States through the north shore of Hawaii because they typically stop there and they work at the Polynesian Cultural Center, which is what my family did in the late 60s, early 70s. Kenny Niumatalolo, his family actually lived there. My wife is from there. Everybody has some connection there. They either stopped and worked there, or they lived there, or they are related to somebody that's from there. So Kenny is, of course, the head coach at the Naval Academy. He's the winningest coach in the history of Navy football. His wife, Barbara, attended school at BYU Hawaii. Kenny did not. Kenny ended up going to the University of Hawaii, where he played football, but he would come home on weekends, and I believe that's how they met. They married. They have 3 wonderful children, one of whom is soon, if not in the not too distant future, about to graduate from BYU. So let me introduce and have, please give a warm welcome to the head coach of the Naval Academy, Kenny Niumatalolo. Kenny?
Guess I just want to start off by saying aloha.
Aloha.
I don't feel right saying that in my suit. I should have came in a aloha shirt. was asking my wife this morning what I should wear, and I wore a suit, but it's a great honor for me to be here. You know, I'm grateful for the Polynesian Cultural Center and the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame for putting this together. And as we drove here, my wife and I drove here this morning, you know, just thinking about just across the street, you know, with the NFL draft going on. There are many young men that their dreams are going to start in their lives, and, you know, things that they've worked for their whole lives to accomplish, and some of them will reach those dreams, some of them won't, but it's the beginning of a new life for a lot of football players. You know, hopefully they have a chance to play in the NFL. And as Vi mentioned, I think the great irony for, you know, the Polynesian Cultural Center coming from that place. If, by the raise of hands, how many people here have been to Laie before, Laie, Hawaii? So you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm very biased, but I believe it's the most beautiful place in the world. When we first moved to Maryland, I love Maryland. I love Annapolis. Annapolis is beautiful. But I used to get people to try to invite me to go to Ocean City all the time. And, you know, we're having a party at Ocean City. We're having a get-together at Ocean City. And I, you know, politely just always declined, you know, something to come up. And finally somebody from my church, my ward, had asked me, you know, you never come to these things that we have on at Ocean City. And I just said, if you knew where I was from, then you'd know why I'm not coming to Ocean City. You know, just, you know, growing up from a place that you're 200 yards from the water, it's a beautiful place. But more than that, as Vi mentioned, it's a place where families start a new life, whether they're coming from whatever islands. We know Polynesia means many islands. And Hawaii being a gathering place, people from many islands. I'm of Samoan descent, but I was raised in Hawaii. As Vi mentioned, he's Tongan. But there, people from New Zealand, Fiji, it's a great gathering place in Laie. But the thing that I think is kind of irony from that is so many people come there, we were raised there. The Polynesian Cultural Center is a big part of the people there, allows us to continue on with our culture as people make a way of living. But we've also found out as people came to the United States that there's a game called football. And I think that a lot of the Polynesians gravitated to that game. I think there are a lot of things that were inherent in our culture. A lot of people know rugby. I mean, if you go to Laie or on the North Shore, a lot of places in Hawaii, you know, some places you go here on the mainland, people playing soccer or basketball. It's very common to go on the North Shore. You'll see people playing rugby wherever, you know, at the park, at BYU in the fields. But it's a big part of, you know, what the North Shore is about. Just the coconut. With the coconut, you know what I mean? And so it's a big part of who the people are. And football has allowed a lot of Polynesians to progress, whether in playing and coaching. And it's been a big part of many of our cultures. And I just want to share really quickly the thing that I think that's so inherent that people have been able, of Polynesian descent, or of any descent, to transfer over to football. The Polynesian people are people of love, and they're people of family. And football, in its purest essence, is that of a family. And the teams that play better are a closer family. And there's no other game like football in that. In basketball, everybody shoots, everybody dribbles. In baseball, you know, everybody has to catch, everybody has to bat. In soccer, everybody kicks the ball. But in football, everybody's job description is totally different. The quarterback's job description is totally different. Vi was a punt returner and a slot receiver. An offensive lineman is totally different from a defensive lineman. A linebacker's job is totally different from a running back's job. But in order to be successful, everybody has to do your job in order to be successful. And I think for a lot of Polynesians, just coming and just knowing that, what's my job? How do I contribute to our family? How do I do this? And I think that has definitely helped. Besides the fact that we love to hit, we're physical people by nature, we enjoy that contact sport. But I think more than anything, just the spirit of ohana, the spirit of family, is something that I know that a lot of Polynesians have embraced. And so it was of great honor when I was asked by Steve and Vi to be able to come up here, just to share a couple remarks on how football has influenced, you know, Polynesians. But I know from this standpoint too, it has blessed a lot of our lives. And even more so, I think the thing for me is really humbling to be here with President Grace, of the Polynesian Cultural Center. That place is a special place to me. It's a place where my family grew up. My dad was a cook for 30 years, and he finally became one of the first managers at the Villager restaurant, and then he's eventually to Gateway Restaurant at Polynesian Cultural Center. And so all of us grew up there. I got my first job there. I don't know if you could call it a job. I was a canoe boy. You just pushed the paddle, and some of the facts, you just made up some of the facts when you forgot, you know what I mean? My manager went, actually, my supervisor is my brother. And so when he went on one of my tours, he's like, hey, what are you saying? That's not on the script. You're making up your own stuff. I said, well, that's what I heard from somebody else, but it was a great job for me, one of my first jobs. In fact, my wife, had one of her first jobs there at Photo Polynesia. So the Polynesian Cultural Center is at our heart, coming from the islands, been here on the East Coast for 20 years, and we love it here, but our heart's in Hawaii, and our heart's in Laie, in the Polynesian Cultural Center. And it's a great honor for me to come here to speak on behalf of our football. I'm just a football coach. I don't know anything else. I can't do anything else. I'm grateful that some of my sons have decided to play football, because I told them if you wanted to anything else, be a doctor or a lawyer or anything, with tools or mechanic, I cannot help you. You're on your own. There's one of the few things that I know in life. But thank you guys. I know we got a lot of good entertainment and food. Thank you guys for coming, and mahalo.
Kenny Numatalolo, as many of you could appreciate, is legendary in among our people. And not just because he coaches football, it's because he is one of the kindest, sweetest, down-to-earth people. And, we come from a very small place. And when somebody leaves the island and they go off and they excel, and they return to the island, and we have a term we call hai makamaka, right? The term is used for somebody who comes back and they're so high and mighty that nobody wants to really be around them, and they call them hai makamaka. That's the worst thing that you could be called is hai makamaka. And so one of the reasons why Kenny is just so beloved is he's never been that way. He comes back, gives back to the people in Laie and helps, and just a regular guy. We love him so much. I now want to introduce you to the president and the CEO of the Polynesian Cultural Center. You have to understand why the PCC is so important to us in our culture. It preserves, I shared this morning on the news when we had a moment, my co-anchors and I, we had a chance to talk a little bit about the luau, this event, and why the PCC is such an important, integral part of our lives as Polynesians. And it's because it preserves, the PCC preserves our history, our culture, our dances, and so it's a place that's special to us because it does all of that. In addition to that, it helps pay for our children's education. My mother and father immigrated, and we came to Laie because my mother had a scholarship from a church school in Tonga to come to the then Church College of Hawaii. So we came there when I was a child, and they both worked at the PCC, danced in the night show, and my mother worked a couple of days a week in the Tongan village. And I remember as a 7-year-old boy going there to the night show because they didn't have babysitting, and the apartment where we lived was on-campus housing, so I would walk to the night show because nobody was home with me. And I would walk there and wait for them to finish, but my mom would give me, I remember it being 50 cents to get the Delight. It came in a pineapple, a hollowed out pineapple, and they put 2 or 3 scoops of ice cream in it. And I think it was 50 cents because I remember they gave me a couple of quarters, and I would go there. And I would, at intermission, I would walk down and buy this fruit bowl, and I would sit there and eat it and watch my parents dance. All right, 40 years later, almost 50 years later, 45 years later, I still get choked up talking about it because it's such a special memory for me. To have been a child, to go and sit and watch my parents dance And then I would go to a backstage area and sit there and wait for them. I was 7 years old. I would wait for my parents to come out, and I went, however time it was, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and we would walk back to our little apartment. And I would hear as we walked all the things that went wrong that night during the show. And sometimes my parents would argue back and forth about, you missed this place right here. You should have been at this location. You missed a turn. And I would hear this as we walked back to our apartment. But being there helped pay for my mother's education. And the commitment of the founding institution, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, to educate our people is one of the reasons why that place is so special to us. It has been committed to do that for 50 plus years. I think the PCC just celebrated its 54th anniversary. So it's a special place. And Alfred Grace is the president and the CEO of the PCC now. People think that it's a profit center. It isn't. The reason why it exists is to help kids. It's to provide them jobs so that they can help pay for their education. And these kids come from all of the Pacific and more along the Pacific Rim and Asia. So it's a worldwide, global brand that the PCC has and BYU Hawaii. So Kenny mentioned the connection to football. A number of years ago, we created the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame. By the way, we didn't create it so that we can have a place to, be personally honored when we come back to Hawaii. Although people, hey, so you're on the board? Yeah, I'm on the board. So you're also a member. Yes, I know. I'm a little embarrassing. But we needed a place to house the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame. When it was broached that we should approach the PCC, I said, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen because I don't think that is a part of their mission. Well, Alfred Grace and his staff decided that having the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame in the PCC was a part of their mission because it honors part of our heritage and our culture and the many players over the years who have played this great game of football and have gone on to do great things in their lives. I'm just honored to be a part of it, and I am honored to present in recognition of his service at the PCC and our association as a Polynesian Football Hall of Fame with the PCC, the Polynesian Cultural Center, to Mr. Alfred Grace. Alfred, would you come up? And we're going to present him something that's very New York and not Polynesian at all, but you all recognize the blue box. It's a Tiffany's bowl we'd like to present to Alfred. Alfred, thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha. Oh, do better than that. Aloha. There you go. Well, it's been a wonderful week coming here, and I want to thank everyone who has participated in the event. Vi and Kenny and their lovely wives, and all of our performers here, to the wonderful people who have made this possible. We're very grateful. In fact, I want to make sure I don't miss anyone. Of course, the Coltrin Associates are here, and of course, the Hawaiian Airlines has been wonderful too. Grateful for all of you coming out here today. Vi has brought back memories, and Kenny's brought back memories. I watched Kenny play when he was a Studley High School quarterback at Radford High, And I watched him because I got to know his dad. And his dad was to me, he was scary until I got to know him. But he's a big Samoan guy, but he's got the kindest heart going. And so I took a liking to Kenny because of his dad. And I guess we all like that. We like each other because of our relationships. But my start at the Polynesian Cultural Center, I'll just share a little story, is any of you know what a FOB is? FOB? Stands for fresh off the boat, okay? So when I was a fob, coming all the way up from Aotearoa, New Zealand, I'm watching the canoe show at the Polynesian Cultural Center one day, and there on the Tahitian canoe is this beautiful 6-foot-tall Hawaiian girl. And I thought, she is amazing. So that night I go to a dance, and she's there, and she's wearing 3-foot-inch heels, right? So she's just an inch shorter than I am. And so I'm looking around, and the only other guy in the room that's my height looks like he's Clark Kent, but better looking, okay? Maybe a little buffer too. His name was Robert Anai, so you might know him. And I thought, oh, there's the competition, you know. Man, I don't stand a chance against that guy. So when Val finally came up, and I stood there, you know, I'm standing as tall as I can up there like this against the wall. And I asked her for a dance. We danced, and then I said, oh, that guy there, you know him? He said, oh, Robert Anai. I've known him since Hanabara days. Hanabara days means as kids, they grew up together on the same street. So long story short, we got married. She's a Hawaiian, Chinese, Japanese, Portuguese, German, typical Hawaiian girl, okay? And I'm Māori, English, and French, so our poor kids, but they turned out well anyway. So at the Cultural Center, we're just delighted to be able to preserve and perpetuate our cultures. Vi and Ken both touched on something interesting. You know, even to this day, we invite all of our Polynesian youth to return, come back to the Polynesian Cultural Center, come back to your roots, and remember who you are. Because so many of our youth have chosen to take some paths in the environment and the influences that they have, that they've forgotten what it means to be Polynesian. And they come back and they recognize that first and foremost, you belong to a family. You are responsible for taking care of your family. You honor and you cherish your parents. You watch over your siblings. If you're a young Samoan man, you better watch over your sisters. That's your number one priority, okay? And they remember what it is to be Polynesians. And so we preserve and perpetuate the cultures that way. Guests like to come because they like to learn of our cultures. They like to visit our villages. They like to throw spears, paddle canoes, learn how to do hula. All of that is very much available. And over the last nearly 54 years, our birthday's on October 12th, we've been able to host nearly 40 million visitors to the Polynesian Cultural Center. We've been ranked as the #1 paid attraction in Hawaii since 1975. And all of that is attributed really to our ability to engage people in a way that they can actually really feel the aloha spirit, which is known throughout the islands, and it's a spirit of giving, it's a spirit of care. Aloha actually means ha is the breath of life. Alo is to be within you. And so aloha really means may the breath of life always be within you. And it also means another element is how can I help you have the breath of life in you? So it leads to us always trying to be helpful to each other as well. Now, first and foremost, the Polynesian Cultural Center was created to provide educational opportunities for young men and young women coming from all around the Pacific Rim, and especially from Polynesia, such as Vi's parents. And so it provides scholarship opportunities, aptly named iWork. So if you're on an iWork scholarship, it means you work at the Polynesian Cultural Center, you attend school at BYU Hawaii, and when you graduate, you have no debt. Because here's the thing, a lot of our kids come from places in the world where the average household income for the year is about $2,000 to $3,000. Now that's not going to pay for a lot of schooling, let alone your textbooks and so on. So the Polynesian Cultural Center has provided over 20,000 students with the opportunity to pay their way through school and graduate and be able to return to their homelands. Most of them, some of us marry Hawaiians, you know. And there's two kind of Hawaiian girls. There's the ones that live there, and there's the ones that don't live there but return home frequently. If I married the latter, I married the first one. So that's just the way they are. And if you want a happy life, well, you know how that saying goes, happy wife. So that's the purpose of the Polynesian Cultural Center. And we hope that when everyone comes to the Cultural Center that they will feel the spirit of aloha, that they will recognize that we truly are interested in knowing you as guests and visitors to the Polynesian Cultural Center. And we hope that when you leave that you'll become a little bit of a Polynesian yourselves, and that you'll always return to the islands with fondness and fond memories. I met many of you today. You have very fond, loving memories of the islands. I invite you to all come back. Those memories will be rekindled. The spirit of aloha still is strong there. We have new generations coming, new generations going forward. Many of them will find success on the football field. Many of them will find success in other fields of pursuit. But all of them will remember where they come from and who they are. So thank you for being here today. Aloha.
Did all of you raise your hand if you all got a ticket for the drawing? Okay, if you didn't, it's too late, I think. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. You see up here, Hawaiian Airlines is a sponsor of this event, and they have graciously given 2 round-trip tickets to Oahu, to Honolulu, and 3-night stay at the Marriott Courtyard, right, in Laie? Is that right? And then they got to pay for their own tickets to go to the PCC, right? Because that's the purpose. We want to get them there to be able to go to the PCC. We're going to fly you there. We're going to put you up. You just got to go buy the tickets. Who wouldn't do that, right? By the way, Alfred is absolutely right. I married a Hawaiian girl, and we live here in the Philadelphia area, and we go back every year. And we take our kids and their in-laws, our in-law children, and 4 grandkids. It's killing me. I'm married to this Hawaiian girl. I love you though, babe. All right. My photographer back there, Jim, he's cracking up because he married a Hawaiian girl. Didn't you? Halaiva? Yeah, and you go back every year with all your kids. And that's why you and I are working at Channel 10. All right. One name, I asked Steve, is it 2 names? Or Steve said, no, just 1 name so that they can take somebody. All right. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? And then where are the entertainers? Are they still here or are they eating? They left? Typical Tongans. All right. The winner is Vanita Burgess. Where are you? Vanita, come on up. Oh, dang, Steve Paletti. I was right there. So close. No, this is for real. How does this work, Steve? Does she just walk up with this and hand it to the airlines? This isn't United Air. We're flying first. This is Hawaiian Air. This is.
Hands it to us, and we'll take care of it.
And you'll take care of the rest. You hand it to that man right there. Vanita, give me a hug.
So much. Thank you.
Have you been to Hawaii?
No.
You've never been?
No, it's on my bucket list.
And who are you taking?
I don't know. You want
Okay.
to come? Just kidding.
Well, I need like 10 more tickets. Is the problem. Well, look, you decide who you're going to take, but congratulations. You're going to have a great time. You're going to love Hawaii, and you're going to keep going back. The first one's on us. The next time it's on you. There you go. Congratulations. Big hand for Vanita. All right, now we